So let's talk about my favorite topic, which is shame. And if you recall, I did a video a few months ago entitled I Let Go of Shame, and it was terrifying. But I want to add a little bit more context to that and talk about a few cases because I'm seeing it everywhere and with the people I'm working with. And it's way more common than I thought it was. And I just want to talk about shame and how ingrained it is in almost all of us, as far as I can see. All of us have some degree of shame, and then some people more than others, of course, and then you can get to chronic levels too. But I want this video to be about the fact that it really is not easy to let go of shame. It is not easy at all. And for me, I wanted to talk about that in the context of letting go of shame, letting go of these feelings that you're not good enough, right? This genuine feeling that there's something wrong with you, that you're a freak, you're a burden, that you're ugly, that you're like this feeling, like that feeling you get when you're rejected and you feel like you're exposed as like this like shameful person, and you're just exposed as small and weak, whatever your shame word is, whatever resonates with your experience. That feeling of shame, and then for some people it gets chronic and turns into an inner critic, and then for some people it leads to depression, and then other people's is so bad that they literally develop malignant narcissism, right? It's so ingrained into them. Letting go of that is difficult because, as I just said, it's so ingrained into your personality structure that it literally feels like you. It feels like who you are. It feels like you are the burdensome one. It feels like you are that freak. It feels like you are that small, insignificant person. And that's been you for your whole life. And you've built an entire life from that essentially false identity, a false constructed, traumatized version of yourself. You've built maybe a whole career around it. Maybe you've built a whole friend group around it. The way you move in the world is built off of it. A lot of times people with shame literally live from a third person perspective. So you're not situated from your own first person perspective comfortably, just observing the world, interacting with people. You're 24/7 as you're interacting with people and as you're going about the world. You're living through their perspective. So you're always envisioning what you're like, what you're coming across to them. So you're living in the third person all the time. You go to a party and you're always looking around, seeing what you're looking like, how you're moving according to their perspectives, right? It's all about you. Your attention is always being turned inward in case you get exposed, in case you slip up, in case you say the wrong thing, because again, you don't want to be confirmed and exposed as the thing you already are, which is weak or ugly or inadequate or whatever word you use. And so letting go of shame, especially if it's deeper for some people, can be somewhat destabilizing. And the parts of us the part of it that feels that shame knows that. Okay. And to let go of it would be an existential crisis of sorts. If I just snapped my fingers, if I walked up to somebody on the street and just snapped my fingers and all of their shame got removed, they're going to probably have a panic attack, and they're probably going to have some kind of an ordeal. Because the shame, as we know, is an inhibitory emotion. I think that the whole history of psychotherapy, we've known this. It's an inhibitory emotion. It's a blocker, right? It's a learned response. It's a wound, but it's also a blocker. It's an inhibitory response. And it's emotionally necessary to have it, because without it, your unconscious mind is predicting a worse suffering, a worse outcome. And when I made that video, said I let go of shame and it was terrifying, I wasn't lying. Some people in the comments were like, he's just making this up. He's just trying to get people into like his coherence therapy business and whatnot. None of that is true. And I've walked people through this exact process many times now since that video. And ever since that shame did move back, ever since that shame did fall away, there has been this reorientating to life that has been very confusing at times. And there has been like a rebuilding process happening. Again, the way I move in the world is different. It feels foreign. Again, going to like parties, going to events, couple of years ago, I would have always been like, how do I impress this person? Oh, there's the popular person at the party. Like, how do I get to know them? And I was always thinking in social hierarchies, right? It was always on my mind. And I was just thinking about this the other day, actually, when I was at a party, how that was just not there anymore. It barely crossed my mind. It only crossed my mind when I actually retrospectively looked at it. That third person looking, how am I coming across to people, just wasn't active anymore. And me walking around, I just kind of paused for a minute. I was like, this just feels so different. This just feels like completely not me. It's just not me. This is not who I've been for all these years, right? And so you lose all of that. And then also there's a restructuring of your desires, because what you thought you once wanted in life, I wanted to become like a DJ, or I want to become like an artist, or I want to become like a filmmaker, or I want to become like, the world's greatest model, or whatever it is. And there's nothing wrong with all those things, by the way, and you can still obviously want them for authentic reasons. But some people can want those things simply because it covers and masks their shame. Their whole purpose in life is essentially to become somebody in order to fend off those feelings, in order to never ever have to feel small again, in order to never ever have to feel inadequate again. And so the best way to do that is to make yourself famous, is to make yourself popular, is to come across a certain way, right? And that was very much me. And so your whole desire structure changes now. And now I'm in a phase right now where I'm thinking, what do I actually really want from life now that this aspect is just not here anymore? What do I actually want from life instead? I was chasing this thing, but did I really want that? Or was I just doing that because, again, I wanted to become somebody and I wanted to, all this, yada, 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 yada. And so there's a restructuring of that. And so that's what I mean by shame is not easy to let go of. Because this whole restructuring will happen, right? You literally have to rebuild a sense of identity and a sense of who you are from that, right? And that's not the only reason why shame is scary to let go of. And one of the other really common ones that I've seen, and I've mentioned the 14 reasons in the previous video, but I want to talk just about these specific ones in more depth, because I see them way more commonly, is the shame and the guilt, especially the shame. It really is a powerful blocker of grief. It's a really powerful blocker of grief. And I've seen that so clearly in like 6 people in the last 3 months. Right underneath that shame is profound grief. And for some people, it's so profound that they're dissociated. They're so dissociated, they're completely disorganized, because the grief underneath it is just so overwhelming. Or there's a prediction that the grief is either unbearable. That's one of them. This grief is unbearable. It will last forever. And another big one is expressing this grief to you is going to make you leave, because grief is just unacceptable to express it. And so all of these 3 learnings are like piled on top of each other. And the shame comes in and is like, well, if it was my fault and if I'm the problem, then I don't have to look at this grief. Or if I'm the problem, if I'm really inadequate and it's my fault, then mom and dad were right. They really hurt or abused an inadequate, lesser me, right? But if you come to the realization that you were actually never the problem, you were never the problem, you were always innocent, and yet they still hurt you. You were always innocent, and yet they still hurt you. That is profoundly terrifying, full of grief, full of horror, from what I've seen. And that grief has to be processed very, 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 very slowly in relationship with someone else. You can't do it on your own. And so this is why, in a lot of approaches, I hear online, like the kind of spiritual healers and stuff, it's like, just feel into the shame, feel into the body, into the shame, and thinking that's going to do anything. It does nothing. It does nothing. It may give you temporary relief, but it just does not access these unconscious emotions and unconscious learnings that are keeping the emotions buried. Carl Jung was right, and it's a really, it's a cliche quote at this point, but unless you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And no amount of feeling into sensations is ever going to change that. No amount of feeling into your body is going to change that. It does help to feel into your body to create resource and safety and to stabilize. And it does help to tap into inner resource when you're getting to those buried emotions and those buried responses and unconscious beliefs. Then it's very helpful. But doing that on the surface level won't produce the lasting change that you're actually wanting, because all of this is buried. All of this is completely, when I say this is out of awareness, I mean, when I do this with people, when I walk them through it, and when I was being walked through it, I had not thought about this unconscious schema. I had not thought about these unconscious schemas once in my entire life. Not once. As much as I was into spirituality, as much as I had meditated for hours and hours a day, trying to analyze my mind and all of this, I had not once ever accessed this deep into the unconscious. And that deep into the unconscious, we call them fourth ordered constructs. They just go untouched unless you know how to access them. And so those fourth order construct is usually where, like, I'll be annihilated if I let go of shame. I'll have to feel overwhelming grief if I let go of shame, etc., etc., etc. Another really common one that I've seen is I really have to hold on to the shame because it gives me power. Like, it protects me from further blows. So if I keep myself small, keep myself as a nobody, as someone who's just not good enough, then I won't annoy the other people because I won't become somebody. So I'll just keep myself small, and then I won't have to face further blows and further attacks. And so the schema is something like, I am still that, like, 8-year-old child, and I'm still as vulnerable as that 8-year-old child, and I cannot handle any further blows. So I have to hold on to the shame as a way to fend off and to make sure that those blows or those attacks never happen again. That is, again, super unconscious. You're not going to think about that by feeling into your body. You're not. It's just not going to happen. Now, I've seen people kind of skim off of these through psychedelic trips, but I've never seen it happen through just, again, feeling into sensations. I'm going off track because I usually start ranting about non-duality teachers and spiritual healers when they don't know what they're talking about. But that's the level and the depth to which it goes, and I've just seen it so much. And yeah, going back to just the whole point of this video, none of that is easy to let go of, right? And I seen a wonderful quote the other day. It was something along the lines of, that which is intrapsychic, so within the person, so within you, that which is intrapsychic was once interpersonal. And so that which was caused interpersonally has to be repaired interpersonally. So in the relationship with a practitioner or therapist. Okay. You're not going to do this through ChatGPT. You're not going to be able to do this on your own. And by the way, I'm not just saying this because I want to get you into my business. That's not happening. I'm already nearly pretty full anyway. But this is just impossible to do on your own. It's impossible. You can't do it because it's a relational wound. It's a wound that formed in relationship to your parents or to bullies or to grandma or to your uncle or whoever. They were formed interpersonally. That which is intrapsychic was once interpersonal, and that which was learned interpersonally has to be unlearned interpersonally. And that's where the real power is, that therapist-client relationship. And that's where the real disconfirming knowledge happens, and that's where the real healing happens, down towards those fourth order constructs. But yeah, so I just wanted to make that video because that's what I've been thinking about over the last while, just in my own journey, kind of literally reconstructing a life, reconstructing who I thought I was, reconstructing how I move, walk, act, talk in the world. It's all changed and is changing. And also just because of just working with the people that I'm working with and seeing the same schemas popping up over and over and over again is it's just fascinating to me, and quite mind blowing. And as I said, it's not easy. It's really not easy to do it. But it's definitely life changing, and it would be, the day I use the word let go of shame. It's really a wrong way of saying it. The day you unlearn shame, when those schemas get unlearned relationally, is probably going to be the biggest day of your life, because everything changes from that day forward. Everything changes from that day forward. Just think about how much comes from shame. Like your relationship problems, when your partner attacks you and they make you feel small because you have an inherent belief that you're small, there's something wrong with you, so you have to defend against that. You're constant chasing after success, and every time you reach a milestone, it never satisfies, so you chase the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And all this time while you're chasing those goals, you're missing out on chasing the things that you actually find genuinely meaningful. Your inability to ask for a job raise, your inability to ask that girl who you really like out and who you've been looking at for so long, right? All of fear because you think that their rejection means something about you, there's something wrong with you, and it can't be exposed. Imagine not feeling any of that ever again. Just imagine how much your life would change. It is extremely life-changing. And for some, it's disorientating, and it takes a lot of work to get there. These patterns were formed over years and years and years. It's attachment trauma, right? These patterns were formed over years and years and years, and it's not going to take 1 or 2 days or 1 or 2 weeks in order to undo that. Okay, it really has to be worked through slowly, with care, and with skill. And so far, the only known methods that I've known that are able to do that is, obviously, I'm going to say coherence therapy, but also I've seen it really successful in like psychodynamic approaches, psychodynamic psychotherapy. This is where we originally got unconscious work from. So we have to thank the psychodynamic community. Intensive psychodynamic therapy as well. Accelerated experiential dynamic psychotherapy. I've seen it done in IFS as well. But again, I have a lot of people who come to me who have formerly tried IFS, and IFS never actually touched off this or got to it. So I do think that IFS lacks precision sometimes. Depending on who's doing it, I do feel like it lacks precision sometimes in getting to those like fourth order constructs and to really fleshing out schemas. I do think it struggles in that area a lot. I have one guy in particular who came to me after being with an IFS therapist for a long time, and they never touched off this. And within 6 or 7 sessions, we got down to the grief that was really, really underneath that shame. So yeah, I just wanted to make that video just to let people know that that's what it's like. There's no quick fixes. There's no enlightenment. There's no promises. You'd hear these people on YouTube. It's like, fix your shame in like this time and do this workshop or do this. None of that. It's all bullshit, right? All of that is crap. This takes real work, real dedication, real commitment, real depth work, real psychotherapeutic work, through a modality that actually accesses the unconscious mind. And that's just the blunt truth of it, right? I could come on here and try sell you my shame course or whatever. That'll promise you that it's going to heal all your shame in like 7 days. Follow the 7-day shame course and reduce your shame. All this, crap. That's just not how it works. Unfortunately, I wish that's how it works. I wish I could make a course. But any course I do ever make will be around just opening your eyes to the fact that there's so much that comes from your shame, and it might give you a little bit of awareness into it, which may actually help a great deal. But actually getting down to it and healing it has to be done relationally with a competent practitioner, and that's just the harsh truth, right? And it's the harsh truth as well because people struggle with money, and people want quick fixes, and people want to watch their YouTube guru and who has promises this and promises that, right? And promises that it'll be done this way and this quickly. And unfortunately, that's just not how the human mind works. And there's a lot of bullshit on YouTube. And sometimes you need someone like me to come on and just tell you that that's all bullshit and to come back to reality, because the reality is that, again, this is all unconscious, and you need to be working with somebody who's competent, and who knows what they're doing, and it takes time, and it takes work, and it takes dedication. That's the brutal, honest reality, and it's not going to be easy for a lot of people to let it go, because it's been your whole identity for your whole life, and so all of this comes into it, right? It's just simply not that easy. So yeah, that's it. Again, any questions about shame, just put it in the comment below. I'm also doing a webinar on the 9th of this month. You'll see it in the description below. So a webinar on the 9th about shame. So I'm going to go through all this in much more detail with PowerPoint slides, and we're going to have a look at the coherence therapy manual, training manual, and unlocking the emotional brain. We're going to look at all of that. So if you're interested in that, you can just sign up in the link below. And yeah, any questions, put them in the comments.